said for the longest time, I didn't even think about weaning him. I was like, yeah, I'll probably breastfeed him until he's like 2 and then I'll review it then and I'll see. Like, I wasn't expecting to have to stop. It is a journey to breastfeed. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. Not this kind of like easy peasy, don't worry about it, everything's fine. Yeah, it is like that. It can be like that, and it was like that for me, but it's definitely not like that at the beginning. So don't feel bad if it's not like that at the beginning, because I hadn't had that space to feel good. So without that space to feel good, you don't know that you feel bad. Broadly, that breastfeeding affects hormones. Breastfeeding is going to like affect your mood, but like I said, I had no idea of the severity in which it was affecting me. Okay, so I've been breastfeeding my child ever since he was born. I haven't had ever any problems with breastfeeding. It's all gone really well. Of course, everyone has some issues with breastfeeding at some point, like maybe you have a really strong letdown or you have a lot of milk, or you know, maybe at first you don't have enough milk. There's always like teething problems. I think there's like teething problems, and then there's like more kind of like serious problems, like maybe your baby doesn't know how to latch. So obviously, of course, people can have a range of issues from small to large in terms of breastfeeding, but I would say that any of the things that I had fall more into the teething problems category. I never had any kind of major issues with breastfeeding at all, thankfully. And my son's 15 months old and I still have tons of milk and I'm still breastfeeding him. But I have now decided that I'm not going to be breastfeeding him any longer. When I started breastfeeding, I found it very, very, very hard. There's a lot of stuff that you don't know about. It's a story for another time. But I told myself, you know, I asked my mom, okay, when can I stop breastfeeding? Because I'm finding it really challenging. So like, at what point is it okay to stop breastfeeding? And, you know, everyone was like, yeah, by 6 months, you know, you're weaning your baby and they're starting to eat solids. So, you know, by 6 months, you won't be breastfeeding anymore, probably. And at the very beginning, when I started my breastfeeding journey, I was like, I cannot wait to hit that 6-month mark. Months 3 and 4, we also had the sleeping and eating regression, which for us was, for me and George, it was super, 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 super hard. It was super hard. He went through that regression where, again, I went to a mom's group during that time, and I was like, I need help. Like, I don't know, like, what is going on. Like, it's really difficult at the moment. Basically, I had to like rock him just to get him to latch. So that was the hardest time in my breastfeeding journey. One of the hardest times in my breastfeeding journey was that kind of 3-4 month. It's basically like this really big developmental leap that they go through at that stage, and because of that, they're so aware of their surroundings that they don't want to latch and they don't want to feed. They're too interested in the environment around them. So basically it was like a huge battle just to get him to latch to feed. Now, that time was one of the hardest times in my journey, and you know, it was a real challenge. Everything was really difficult. And like I was saying, when I went to the moms group and I told them what was going on, they're like, oh, you're at the 3-month mark, aren't you? Like, or you're at the 4-month mark, you know, like, yeah, I had it exactly the same. And, you know, they were all explaining how, you know, the only way to get the baby to feed, and I had to do the same thing. I was already doing the same thing before they told me, was basically like just putting your leg up on somewhere so that you could kind of support him in a way where you could like kind of like rock him or bounce him so that he would latch. And then once he latched, he would calm down and be like, oh yeah, that's what I wanted. Like, that's why I was so aggro, because I'm hungry and I'm tired. But like, they're so distracted by the world around them that they're not paying, like, they don't realize like what they need. You know, that's why you're there to take care of them. So yeah, long story short, but I just share that a little bit just to say that at that point in my breastfeeding journey, I was feeling like I cannot wait for the 6-month mark to come, because I just want to stop breastfeeding. Like, it was just so stressful and so hard, and it was a challenge. It was super challenging. So I wanted to stop when I was at 3-4 months. So I think it lasted about 2 weeks. It was a long time in the scale of, you know, everyday life when you're feeding your baby. Like, you know, multiple times a day, 12, 15 times a day or more or whatever, you know, basically imagine every single one of those times being a battle, and he's crying and he's fighting you and it's stressful and you're rocking him and you're recovering from birth so you can barely move. It's like, it was a whole ordeal. So 2 weeks, or the 3 weeks that it lasted, it felt horrific. Then all of a sudden, obviously he got past that phase because it's just a phase, but after that, everything really regulated really well, and the breastfeeding started becoming a lot more manageable. Like, I guess you could say again, even though I really think that those first 2 months, you're still kind of finding your feet. I mean, your milk hasn't even come in properly and stuff yet. It takes a while for that to happen too. I think it comes in at that 8-week mark properly, like stably and stuff like that. So again, not to discuss all the little details of breastfeeding, it's just to give you a brief overview of my journey. And I had it in my mind, like, okay, at 6 months, I'm gonna try and stop because, you know, because I was feeling massively overwhelmed, because breastfeeding is overwhelming, because that means, you know, when you're breastfeeding, the baby relies solely on you. There's no one else that can take that burden off you. If the baby's hungry, you have to feed it. If the baby wants to go to sleep, you have to comfort it. There's no one else that can take that role at all. It's just you. So breastfeeding is a lot harder. It's a lot bigger, I think, of a commitment, and of like, especially physically, because like, it's you, it's your body. If you feel good or you feel bad or you feel tired or you feel mentally whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, your baby needs you, needs your body, needs the milk to come. So, you know, it's hard. Breastfeeding is a challenge. So, having said all of that, by the 6-month mark, breastfeeding had already actually become a lot easier and way more manageable. So really, I didn't even think about weaning him off the breast milk at that point. Even though I had gone through such a stressful time, and I was like so sure in my mind, especially at the very beginning, in that first month, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to stop doing this. By the time 6 months came around, I didn't feel like that at all. I didn't even think about stopping breastfeeding. Like, that's how easy and normal it was for me by then, that I was no longer just wanting to stop. So what that means is the 6-month mark came and went, and here I am still breastfeeding him, and my son is now 15 months old, and I'm still breastfeeding him. But I am now starting to like purposefully stop breastfeeding him. So I still have milk, everything's fine, he still wants to feed, like, it's not coming from an issue. I'll explain why. It is coming actually from a mental hormonal imbalance place, and I'm gonna explain that now. But yeah, so first my mark was 6 months. Then everything was like really going well, and I completely forgot to wean him off of the breast milk. I didn't even like want to, because it wasn't a struggle anymore. So then I basically was perpetually in this kind of limbo of like, oh, okay, well, when should I stop breastfeeding him? And I kind of never really thought about it beyond, I guess I'll know when it's right. Like, that was it. That was as much thought as I gave into it. I just thought, well, I don't know. When the time comes, I'm sure I'll know. And I had this kind of general marker in my mind of 2 years. So like breastfeeding him until he's 2 years old, because I know that the World Health Organization recommends until they're 2 years old. Various other like breastfeeding advice groups and like organizations recommend that you breastfeed your child until they're 2 months old, 2 years old, sorry. So that was kind of like my next marker. I was like, okay, well then I guess I'll do it until he's 2, or until it feels right to stop, or like, you know, I was just kind of left it open. But here is what happened. And recently, again, he started kind of feeding a little bit less. He had a couple of nights where he slept really well. He slept through the night. Maybe he woke up once or twice. Those nights where he hadn't had any breast milk through the night, all of a sudden, I woke up that morning and I felt like really good and clear-headed, and stable and kind of really myself. But I noticed when I woke up that morning that I was in like a really, really good place. And I'd been practicing and trying a whole bunch of things to be in that good place, and I wasn't able to achieve that with anything that I was doing. So I was like, I just woke up feeling really good, really myself, really normal, really positive, like with a lot of energy. So like a lot of mental energy and a lot of physical energy. And I was like, I feel good. This is cool. I didn't know what was going on. And my son didn't really breastfeed that whole morning, pretty much. And then in the afternoon, around 2 p.m., he started, I don't know whether it was because he was tired or because he was teething or whatever it was, he started asking to feed tons of times. Like, we were upstairs in his room, and I think I fed him in the space of about an hour and a half. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't know if it was 5 times or 6 times. It was just like so much that basically by the last one, I was laying down on the floor, like so tired, feeding him and just feeling like horrible. I felt mentally horrible and I felt physically horrible. And that was when I realized that something wasn't okay. I thought, why do I feel like this? Like, I felt great all day. I didn't have that negative cloud in my mind, in my head. I didn't have the brain fog. I didn't have the irritability, the impatience, like the frustration, just like this kind of like, you know? I didn't have any of that. Like, I'd had a great day. We'd had a great day together. I was feeling so bad. Mentally, I was just in such a bad place. I don't want to do anything. I can't see anyone. I don't want to talk. Like, I felt mentally so seriously horrible and bad. Like, I don't even know if I'm doing a great job of explaining it over a video, but seriously, like, it was horrible the way I felt, and there was no logical reason for me to feel like that. Nothing had happened that had irritated me. Nothing had made me angry. Like, it was just a really, like, imagine I had been up here in my mood the whole day, then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, down here. And it was just like, everything was just awful. And that was just mentally. Physically, same thing. Like, all that energy, all that goodness, all that lightness, all that positivity I had all day, all of a sudden I was just like destroyed. Like I said, I had to feed him like laying down on the floor. I couldn't even get up. I couldn't move. I had no energy. I felt horrible. And like I said, that's when it clicked. I was like, something's up here. How can I go from feeling so good all day, having no problem, really feeling like myself finally, mentally, really feeling like in control and calm without trying to like have to be calm, like just like naturally in a good place, like a place that I didn't even know I could reach again, because it's been like, you know, postpartum is hard. And yeah, like that's when it clicked. So I kind of like, I sat up and I was like, I've got to think about this. What's going on? Like, is it my hormones? Is it like I said, and then that's when I looked it up and I realized, I didn't know this, but that's when I realized that breastfeeding causes like huge issues basically with your hormones. So I know that breastfeeding affects your hormones. I know that breastfeeding to a degree can affect your mood. I knew that breastfeeding, the more you breastfeed, the longer it's going to take, but like that's just more time you're adding on before your hormones start regulating. Apparently it's common medical knowledge that you have to stop breastfeeding, and once you stop, it's a year after that point where your hormones will be quite regulated by then. So a year after you stop breastfeeding is when your hormones are regulated. So like I said, I knew some of those things, but I had no idea. First of all, the biggest realization was that I had no idea the physical and mental toll that breastfeeding had been taking on me. I hadn't realized that. you know, so I was like thinking about all these things and trying to make it make sense. I didn't realize that breastfeeding was affecting me so badly. Now, I don't know if breastfeeding throughout my whole journey had affected me this badly. I can't say, I don't know. But it definitely 100% is now affecting me in a negative way. So what I realized that very same day when I got up, I looked it up and I looked up studies and I started reading and I went to breastfeeding organizations and I started reading all of these things and I started realizing, oh my gosh, like, why didn't anyone ever tell me that? You know, yeah, midwives and people, they told me, no, doctors never did, by the way. I have a whole separate thing to talk about that. But yes, some medical professionals did tell me, you know, I knew broadly that breastfeeding affects hormones. Breastfeeding is going to like affect your mood. But like I said, I had no idea of the severity in which it was affecting me. So that very same day, when I realized that I've gone from being up here, doing good, and then all of a sudden that same afternoon, being at 0, like literally below 0, like it was horrible. And the only thing that had changed was the amount that he had breastfed. And when the previous 2 days he had barely breastfed, I was like, oh, it's gotta be that, especially after I looked it up. Okay, so as you can see here, why is breastfeeding so emotionally hard? Yeah, well, the dip in mood from changes in your hormones is huge. And this is, I'm telling you, I did not know this. Like I said, I knew that hormones played a part in your mood and it had some kind of effect, but I had no idea that I personally was being completely controlled by my breastfeeding hormones. And like I said, it's not throughout my entire journey, I don't know, but the fact that I can see now the effect it has on me, at least it has it right now, that's why I've realized, okay, I need to look at this, I need to think about this, and I need to take action. For example, again, this is something that I know I had because I spoke about it to the health visitor that came to do all the checks, as well as my lactation consultant. I told her, you know, when I was learning about breastfeeding, so right at the very beginning, 2 months in and stuff, I was like, you know, why do I have this feeling where when my milk is about to come down, I feel like really bad, like, and she's like, oh yeah, there's this thing, and this is what it is, right? So even this, I knew broadly that this existed, but I did not know that this was a very, very common thing that just does happen when your milk lets down. I mean, look what it says. It causes you to have intense negative feelings when your milk lets down during a feeding. When you're feeding multiple times a day, what do you think that's going to do to your mood? Intense negative feelings every time your milk lets down. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's crazy. Like I'm saying, I did not know that, and it was scary. It's a scary thing to see because I just wasn't myself, and I was so messed up, and I was like, I couldn't like do anything. I really don't know if I can explain this clearly or if I can like communicate just how bad I felt mentally and physically, but basically I just felt like I couldn't get up from the floor. When I read all of those studies and I saw all of those things and I realized, okay, I have to start weaning him from breastfeeding because it is affecting me in such a negative way now that the benefits no longer outweigh the negatives, right? So I didn't mind it because I either didn't feel bad or didn't realize that I felt bad, you know, because I hadn't had that space to feel good. So without that space to feel good, you don't know that you feel bad. But once I had that and once I realized, that is when I made the decision. I was like, okay, no, that's it. Like, we cannot keep breastfeeding. Like, it's time for us to stop the breastfeeding journey. And only you will know when it's the right time for you. 100% don't keep doing it if it no longer feels right. For me, it just no longer feels right. For the longest time, like I said, after that 4-month time, really, I've been enjoying breastfeeding. It's been easy. And it's been great, and it's been no problem at all after getting over those very first few months, those hurdles in those first few months. Like, it's been the easiest thing in the world. I've been enjoying it. But I'm now not enjoying it. I realized that I was having all of these really intensely negative physical and mental effects from continuing to breastfeed, and that's why I've made the choice to stop. So only you will know when it's right. Like I'm saying, I know that it's right for me now. I didn't know when would be the right time. Like I said, I had that 2-year mark in my mind. And, you know, it may well be that by 2 years, he's still breastfeeding to go to sleep. I'm still breastfeeding him, but what I do is pretty much the morning he goes without feeding. So he'll have his first feed after his first nap. So we're getting back to that again. So that really boils it down to about 2 daytime feeds and then 1 feed to go to sleep, right? That's completely different to basically feeding him whenever he asks for it, which is like a lot. So my goal is to get him not feeding at all in the mornings, feeding as little as possible in the afternoons, and then I'm okay for him to feed to go to sleep. That's my plan now, learning what I've learned, beginning my slow weaning process. But I don't know if I feel like I'm in a rush for that. I just know for a fact that I can no longer feed him on demand or often because it's no longer working for me. And if something's not working for me, it's not going to work for him, because I can't be the best mom I can be if I'm feeling abysmal, because abysmal is the word. If I can't move from the floor, if I'm physically exhausted and fatigued, because that's how it was making me feel, and if I'm just like completely drained physically and emotionally and mentally, what kind of a person is that to be there for like my kid? You know, that's not good. So my breastfeeding journey has truly been a journey. It is a journey to breastfeed. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. It is not this kind of like easy peasy, don't worry about it, everything's fine. Yeah, it is like that. It can be like that, and it was like that for me, but it's definitely not like that at the beginning. So don't feel bad if it's not like that at the beginning. Also, don't feel bad if it's not like that after, if it starts getting difficult again, or if your baby's going through a regression and the feeding becomes too much, or if you struggle with cluster feeds. Like, breastfeeding is hard, and I feel like there's a lot of noise from the holistic world, who I was very much a part of. Like, I read all of the positive birthing books and I applied all of those practices during my birth, so like I am in favor of it, but I am against the noise that comes from that neck of the woods, and actually equally probably the medical professionals, because really, you know, no doctors or midwives told me that it could take a severe toll on my mental or physical health. I generally, really the chatter from both sides, whether it's the holistic world or the medical world, is like, yeah, breastfeeding is so easy, it's so natural, don't worry about it, it's gonna be like the most simple thing, you're gonna love it, it's no problem, it's no big deal. It's like, okay, that's just not true. It is 100% like that if you're in that right kind of time where everything's working, you know, and you're not feeling negatively affected. Like I said, for the longest time, I didn't even think about weaning him. I was like, yeah, I'll probably breastfeed him until he's like 2, and then I'll review it then, and I'll see. Like, I wasn't expecting to have to stop now. But either something's changed in my hormones, or it's just naturally the progression for both of us. This is just naturally we're being told, you know what, it's time to ease up. I'm much a big believer in that mother and baby know best for themselves. So your baby's gonna know, you're gonna know, and that's really all that matters. You'll know when it's right. Just like I knew that right now is the right time. I didn't expect that right now would be the time. I didn't know that, I didn't plan that, but it just is. Just enjoy it while it lasts, because I certainly enjoyed it. And it is, you know, I get a little bit emotional thinking about it, really, because like it is an emotional decision, you know, to be like, okay, I'm not gonna breastfeed him anymore. It's crazy. It's like the end of an era. It's like, it was hard work. It is a big moment when you choose to start weaning. You all know. Don't let anyone tell you. Don't worry, because I was worried. I was thinking like, okay, how am I gonna wean him? Like, when am I gonna know the time is right? Like, how do I know the time is right? Is there something to look out for? Like, should I have like a plan in my head? Should I, you know? And it was like, that was like my logical mind constantly trying to make sense of the world around me. But I always had this inner knowing of like, don't worry, like, it's gonna be fine. It'll work itself out when it needs to work itself out. And honestly, this is like the biggest piece of advice I could possibly give anyone. Trust your inner knowing as a mom. I promise you that you know best. You know what's right. And like I'm saying, your baby equally knows what's right. Your baby knows more about what's going on than you do. I always say that about my baby. I always say, you know what? He knows more about what's going on than I do. And just to give you an example of that, as soon as I decided, I made my mind up, my whole being is made up that, okay, that's enough on the breast milk, can't do it anymore in this kind of way. And guess what? My kid, he is right there on the hook with me. He has not been asking the way he was asking before. He's completely like different. I'm telling you, he knows. He's like completely aware of this kind of physical, mental, emotional decision that's taken place, and the shift has happened and the shift has come in and the transition is here, and he knows it, and he's right on there on par with me, and he's completely, you know, playing ball. And this is why I want to make the point that like you will know best and your baby will know best, and everything will happen at the right time. And even if it's like me at a time that you didn't expect, it's the right time. Sudden, here I am at 15 months. And it's time to stop. It's time to start stopping. I hope you have really enjoyed listening to this. I hope you found it relatable or helpful. I hope you found it honest, impartial. So yes, I hope that you've enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.